Your favorite toy truck nerds are back. Welcome to That Scale RC Show.
Everybody, welcome back to That Scale RC Show after a pretty sizable break. This is Jeremy along with Travis and Adam, and we have a special guest with us today, Dave Palacios from My Build Projects.
Hello guys, how are you doing? Good.
Good, thanks.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's been on my list, but I neglected to even bother telling these guys that we had a guest this week or anything. So yeah,
I found out like an hour ago.
It's okay. It's fine.
I found out about 30 minutes ago.
Well, you guys didn't even see the post.
I'm sorry, I was working all day.
Same.
Well, geez. Okay.
And we all know when everyone checks their Instagram.
Yeah. So, Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do for a 9 to 5, if you want people to know. If not, that's fine. And then maybe a little bit of background on how MVP came to be a thing.
Well, let's see. How far back do we go? I'm probably going to reveal my age here, but I started RC probably back in 87.
Whoa, you were ancient. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm old. I just turned 50.
You're actually considered a vintage RCer.
I am.
Wow.
I am. I was around when the original RC10 was released. So, but yeah, I got into RC back then. I had a Tamiya Blackfoot was my first car that my dad bought me for my birthday. I originally wanted like a Radio Shack car, but he kept putting me off and saying like, no, we'll go another day. We'll go another day. I kept bugging him, and then he was telling me, well, if you really want it that bad, then you have to earn the money yourself. So I was like, okay. So I started saving my allowance and saving. I finally had enough money. Okay, go take me to Radio Shack. I want to buy my RC car. He's like, no, I'm not going to take you there. I don't have time. And he's making up all these excuses. And then one day he surprised me he said, come on, get in the car. Where are we going? He said, just get in the car. I got in the car and he took me over to a hobby shop. And they were doing parking lot racing with like sand scorchers and Blackfoots and a bunch of different Tamiya cars. And we went inside and he goes, pick one. Like, all right, cool. I got my Tamiya Blackfoot and I had to build it myself because, again, he kept telling me, I don't have time. I had always played with, because we were talking about Legos earlier, but off the air. And I used to always play with Legos. So he saw that I like to build. And so he must have known that I could build an RC car. And so I just got tired of waiting. And so I decided, I'm just going to build this thing myself. And I built it. It was no problem. And I've been hooked ever since then. And then I started racing in about 91. My first car was an RC10. First race car was an RC10. And then in 95, and I was working at a hobby shop too at the time. And then in 95, I got a job working for Extreme Magazine. I worked there for a couple of years, part-time. Worked at Losi in the warehouse full-time for about a year. Then I decided I wanted to go back to school for graphic design. Graduated from graphic design school in 2000. Got a job at Extreme again, this time as a graphic artist, laying out the magazine. So I worked for Extreme. We also had RC Heli, and worked there until about 2011 when they shut their doors. And then I was doing freelance work. And then I got a job over at Associated Electrics. And that's where I currently work. I work for Associated Electrics doing stuff for Element, Team Associated, Reedy, and Factory Team. Doing all the packaging.
So you are the person responsible for, and everybody's probably going to be really interested in this. Probably would have been better if I would have led having you on the show with that when I posted it, but you do the Scale Garage packaging, don't you?
Yes, I do. That's what I do. Yes, I was gonna say that's what I do most, but I do a lot of other things too. But that's one of the things that I do that I most enjoy about my job is putting together the garages and hiding little things inside the garages and stuff like that, and putting those together.
Yeah, those have been huge. I mean, we see people that, post, will anyone sell me a box? And I mean, just really, really cool. So it's something that has changed it's changed the Scale RC industry.
Yeah, when we were developing Element and we're starting to do the boxes and working on the boxes, we were just thinking we were looking at different other boxes, and we saw that people were printing on the inside of the boxes, but they were just printing, just like a step and repeat of their logo.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like, okay, well, if that would be kind of cool. That would make it look cool because it'll make it look a little bit higher end, having printing on the inside of the box too. And then I think it was John Schultz at the time. He mentioned it, and he says, "Why don't we just do a garage?" And we all looked at each other and said, and just like, that would be incredible. Nobody does that. Why wouldn't we? It seemed like such a simple thing. It seemed like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Yeah. So that's what we did, and it was a huge hit. People loved it. We didn't tell anybody that there was a box or a garage inside the box when we first released the Sendero, and then when influencers and people were doing reviews on the vehicles opened up the boxes, and then they realized, oh, there's a garage in here. Oh, this is cool.
I think that's what added to the cool factor so much, was that this was such a surprise. And then it was delivered on again and again and again with all the different references within it.
The thing is, though, is that we kind of dug ourselves into a hole, because now we got to keep, we did this. What do we got to do next time? What do we got to do next time? So it's just like, I think it was the Zool and the U-Tron were the ones that we did like an 80s themed box, and one was a 90s themed box. And, when we revealed those and people were looking at it, they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. They're sitting there looking at them. I think it was a Proline by the Fire, maybe, that we had released one of them or announced one of them. And people were just looking at it and trying to pick out all this stuff and go, oh, I remember that movie. Oh, this is that from that movie. And so that was a huge hit. So
yeah, the jokes and the Easter eggs and stuff are just awesome.
Yeah, those are fun. There's also sometimes stuff that's just like more of an inside joke, like anybody in the office would probably get, but outsiders would look at it and say, like, oh, that's cool, but they don't really understand the joke. But for us, it's like, that's a little jab or a little, just a joke between us,
Stuff like that's fun. That's really fun. We did, I think it was like an instruction sheet or something we did, but we did coordinates on it, and usually everybody does like coordinates for like where their store is or whatever, and we did like a random McDonald's or something. So
yeah, I forgot about that.
On our boxes, there's coordinates as well. We were doing that too. But if you look at the boxes, the coordinates we try to make them different on each box, and it usually is it's specific to that vehicle. Like it has something related to that vehicle.
That's cool. Now, I didn't know that.
Yeah. We haven't done it on the last few boxes. We've kind of just left them generic, where they just go to our office. But it's just because we've been having a lot of projects coming up, and just like doing the research and trying to find coordinates and find something that would work well. It just takes time, and sometimes we don't have the time to figure that out. So.
Actually, that's a really good segue for the next question I was going to ask you, which was, I sort of know the amount of time that goes into this stuff, but not really, because like I'm a stripes and shapes kind of person, and that's sort of the extent of what I do. I can't do anything photorealistic at all. It's just not my skill set. So when I see the stuff that you crank out, especially like, the 80s ones with like the big stereo set from Back to the Future and stuff, and like Rad, the BMX movie and everything, like how long does it take you to do one of these boxes?
It depends. Like I want to say the very first, which one was it? It was the Trail Walker Black, the one that we did with the first Scratcher weather body. That one actually only took about maybe a day to do because it was just something. It was just really simple. I think that was the one that's like a paint booth. So it's mostly just white, just kind of white panels. It's pretty plain. The Night Runner was also a pretty simple one. That one took about a couple of days to do.
That was the one that looks like an airplane hangar or something like that, I believe.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But like the Utron and the Zool, those take a lot more time because having to find all those little things to put on the shelf. And I think it was the Bushido Plus? No, not the Bushido Plus. They all blend together. It's hard to tell which one was which. But there was one that we did that was like an RC garage. It looks like a garage that has a bunch of RC cars in it. It has like an RC10, has like a B6, it has all kinds of different stuff. All those are the ones that take the longest. Like the Utron, I think took me about a week to do.
Wow.
To find all of the little things that go on the shelf and just to make it, because you don't want it to look like, oh, there's a shelf, but it has like two things on the shelf. You want it to look like it's a garage that's collecting a bunch of stuff. So having to find all these little things and do that's the hard part. But it's fun. It definitely takes me down memory lane when I do stuff like that. So
it's really cool. I mean, I obviously I have kind of like a really special appreciation for that, just because I know, how difficult it is. So it's just the stuff when I see it, it just blows me away. And then, the jokes and stuff on top of it. I think it was like maybe the original Bushido, was that the one with like the 10mm sockets hidden all over the place?
Yeah. There's on the inside of the box and on the outside of the box. If you didn't catch them all,
I didn't catch them on the outside. That's funny.
Yeah. I'll give away one. We actually, when we were shooting the features photos, Brad actually took a 10mm socket and put it in the photo and then took the picture. So if you look at one of the feature photos, there's a 10mm socket on the car somewhere.
Nice.
That's so rad.
That was fun. Usually the inside of the boxes take a lot longer to do than the outside of the boxes. So, but
yeah, I could see that. How was the Hoonigan Barnyard one? Was that pretty difficult to do for the Hoonicorn?
That one was actually pretty easy because all we did is we contacted their photographer and asked them to go out to the barnyard and shoot photos. We already told them what we had planned to do, and so they shot them from a distance. They shot them fairly flat, and they went and actually shot the containers that were graffitied.
Oh wow!
And then they sent us the photos, and then we used Photoshop to kind of correct any proportions and any of the distortions from the lens.
Right.
And so that was pretty easy.
No kidding. Wow, that is way cool.
Yeah. One of the fun ones too was the Enduro 12, the board game on the Sendero. That was fun.
That's right. Some of these we haven't seen, because we don't have like each vehicle. So there's some of these that I've never seen before. So I'm kind of hearing about some for the first time, like the paint booth and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. The board game one is really fun. We decided, because the box isn't really big enough to do a garage, and the proportions, the way the box is made doesn't really lend itself to be a garage. So we wanted to do something different. So we just thought, why don't we do a board game? So we did the board game, and then the next one we did a different board game, and then the Bushido 12 scale we did something else in there. So that it's fun. We decided we're just going to do games so people can play.
Yeah, that's too cool. Well, and on top of that too, I mean, it's kind of one of those things also that is like, reduces waste and stuff too. So
yeah, that was another reason why we did the garages, because everybody just throws away the box, and we're just like, well, how we want to be able to have these people keep their box. How could we have them keep their box?
I would say not unless you're a weirdo like me.
You keep all of them, Adam?
Well, I did for the longest time. Then I started cutting off just the face of the box, because I was running out of room.
That's kind of a good idea. That'd be kind of neat looking to like do a whole wall in your garage of box.
And that was the idea. I was just going to use the front of it, so that way at least you knew what you bought, and then you could just kind of put them all together like a big puzzle.
That's cool.
That's a really good idea. Because there's some like there's actually like box art that I really like and think looks cool, you know. And so I mean, occasionally, you know, we'll get something in here, and I just don't want to throw it away for whatever weird pack rat reason. So no, that's a really good idea.
As a kid, I used to always like the Tamiya illustration with the style box art. Those are really cool.
I see all of us, like when you were talking about like, you know, your first car being a Blackfoot and stuff, like all of us, like we haven't been in RC nearly as long. And so we've missed that entire experience, you know? And so like for me, I mean, I think my first Tamiya build was only like 2 or 3 years ago. So like there's a lot of things like that are like these really fond memories that people have of their childhood and stuff, you know, with like these certain brands and stuff. And it's like, we just completely bypassed all of that. I mean, Trav and I didn't even start racing until it was like right in the middle of like lipos becoming commonplace and stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of like just things that we never experienced that everybody else got to that, you know, we kind of take for granted, but we're like, you know, somewhat monumental things for everybody else.
You guys never get to experience putting your car down on the track and not driving it at all because you were afraid that you weren't going to finish the qualifying heat or the main. You're running your batteries right to the end. You cross the finish line, time's up, and your battery car just literally just dies. Like, oh, I made it. Yes.
We were like right on the edge of that. This was just this was just going away.
Like the 3000s and the 2000 milliamp batteries were coming out.
Yeah.
And you can make a 5-minute main. But yeah, before, like when I would start racing, it was like 1200 or 1300s. And it was like a 4-minute main. And you were lucky if you could gear it just right and you can drive just right, then you'll make it. You know, you just had to just get that timing done right.
I would not be able to get shit done in 4-minute main. Like that is just stressful. There's no, I mean, like I'm barely warmed up by like the halfway point of a main. Yeah. So wow, that would be rough. and nowadays you run you can run like 10-15 minutes on a car, you know, on the track at a racetrack. That's not a problem. Yeah. Or even longer. But I mean, crying over there for like 45 minutes to an hour. I'm tired of this. I'm done. That not even dead yet. Yeah, when we first got into 8th scale, when, you know, it was like our first experience with 4-cell batteries, we were just like, oh my God, the runtime's crazy. So, I mean, we would just go out and just hammer laps for just the longest time, just forever and ever and ever, because it was just such a new thing and so much fun. And
yeah, that's good because it builds up your muscle memory for the track, and you get the timing done for all the jumps and everything. And then when it comes time to actual race, you're warmed up and you're ready. You're in the groove.
I definitely do miss that about RC racing, especially like with the stuff that I'm doing now. It's like there are no practice days, and like you walk the course, you drive really slow around at one time, and then it's race time and that's it. And it's like you never get a really good feel for stuff, and that's so foreign to me because I mean, like even with like RC and moto and stuff, it was just that's how you get good at something, is you, like you said, muscle memory, and you just go hammer out laps until your brain turns to mush. And it's just been the strangest thing to not be able to do that. Like it's just really, really foreign. And that's something I miss, because that's something Trav and I used to do all the time. I mean, we would just go and dice, you know, for 10-15 minutes trying to turn in on each other and overtake. And it was really, really fun just going out and just battling for just the longest time. And that's probably one of the things I think that I miss the most about RC racing. But yeah, no, that stuff was a good time.
Yeah, I stopped racing in 2011 after Extreme had closed.
You missed it at all?
No, not really. Every once in a while I get the urge of wanting to go to the track and to drive a car on the track. Right. But I have no desire to go to a race night and to go race and to build a race car or something like that. It's just
I get that sentiment.
Well, yeah, we talked about that today, actually, because Travis he recently had moved to Colorado, and there's a track local to him. And so he was kind of kicking around the idea of getting a 2-wheel buggy and racing again and stuff. And so we were talking about that earlier today. And it's like, sometimes I'll kind of like get the urge, but then I remember like how bad it sucks to put in like 8 hours at a track on race day just to get cleaned out by somebody in the first turn of the main, and it's like, you work so hard all day and then just something like that'll happen and you're just like, God damn it. So it's like, I don't miss that necessarily, but like, I definitely understand what you're saying about like actually driving on the track, because that part's super enjoyable.
Yeah. With me being older, like my reflexes probably aren't as fast as they were when I was younger, when I was racing a lot. So, and then it's just being able to be competitive and to make it enjoyable to be competitive. It's a lot harder. You have a lot, faster people that are out there that have been doing it for a while, and it can get a little, discouraging when you're last or you're constantly crashing and stuff like that. So,
right.
And I enjoy crawling a lot more. It's more relaxing, being out there, hanging out with friends, chatting, just a lot more relaxing. And being outdoors. So I'd rather do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus I enjoy building stuff fun. Too. So
right. Like the driving is just part of the experience, because you have a whole other element to it that really, no pun intended, that really brings a lot of enjoyment to, like, as far as the hobby aspect is concerned.
Correct.
Do you think do you think you enjoy building more or driving more? Or is that just kind of a tough one to answer?
It's a tough one to answer, because I do enjoy building, but I drive everything I build.
Is it cyclical? Like some builds are more fun than they were to drive, and vice versa, like depending on what your inspiration was with it, or?
Yeah, like I have 2 builds right now that are sitting here that I started and then kind of put on the back burner a little bit. And it's just, they're cool builds. I don't know if you saw them, but they're the 2 Tamiya vans.
The drift van, is that one of them you were doing?
Yeah, the drift van, and then the other one is what I call Dad's van, because it's going to be a replica of my dad's van that he had when I was growing up.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, he had a 75 Dodge van, and that's basically what the Tamiya lunchbox is a 1975 Dodge van. And so I thought, this would be perfect. So I'm going to build a replica of the van, and then my plan is to build it and have it done by Father's Day, so I can give it to him as a gift.
Oh, cool!
Father's Day. So, but those are kind of, like I said, they're cool builds. But I have other builds that I'm like, I want to build that. It's going to be so cool. It's going to be so fun. It's, it'll be a lot more exciting. But I have these other builds that I need to get done. So it's just like, you have this, you got to pick and choose what you want to build, and having something that you're excited about. That's, I don't want to start on that, because I know once I get started, I'm just going to build it until it's done. But I have these other builds I need to finish first. So.
Yeah, it's tough having multiple stuff like that going on at once.
Yeah. I have tons of builds that are like on deck that are ready to go, but I don't want to build them yet because I have these 2 that I want to work on first.
Right.
So I just got to get through it.
I think I definitely spend more time building stuff than I do driving, unfortunately, but that's something I would like to change this year. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't know. I figured you're kind of like me in that respect, where like you really seem to enjoy that process, whereas some people are just like, I want to get it done and drive it, and that's like their entire focus.
Well, I'm lucky too that down here there's a lot of events, whether it's a competition or if it's the monthly crawlers and coffee thing. I'll be able to go out and drive my car. So I'll go, and that's when I take out my cars and I drive them. And in between that, and then I'm building. So, like I said, for me, it's kind of a mix and match. I kind of like building, and I also like driving. And driving something that I built is kind of cool because it looks cool and it's fun to drive. And that's what it is. It's fun.
Nice. Oh, let's see. Gosh, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. There was somewhere I wanted to go with that, and I dropped the ball. Happens sometimes.
No worries. I
All it really does is just create more editing for Travis. So it's no sweat off my back.
We never claim to be professionals.
No, that's true. We rarely have a game plan. We just kind of wing it and talk. So,
on one of the questions that Brad had posted on there asking what my most favorite build was or something like that. So
Yes. Yeah, that I was going to break this up into 3 questions once we got that, but what is the favorite build that you've done so far and why?
Oh boy. I kind of dug myself into a hole down with that question because that's a hard question to answer as well.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Well, each build has its own purpose and has its own reason why I enjoy it and why I built it. So, that is a hard question. Let's break it down. Which one is my favorite one to drive, or which one's my favorite one that I think, as far as looks, how it came out, how it turned out?
Maybe let's do one of each. What was your favorite build, and then what was the most satisfying to drive once it was finished?
My favorite build, as far as like appearance and how the cool factor, would be Optimus Climb, which is the 6x6.
Yeah, that one's my favorite that you've
done. that one was actually like a 2-year project because I had built the chassis and modified the axles like a year and a half to 2 years prior to me actually finishing it.
Wow.
And I had no idea what body I wanted to put on it. I kept changing my mind. What did I want to do? What did I want to do? And then I saw a Tamiya King Hauler. I go, oh, that would be kind of cool. So I decided I was going to do that. And then, sorry, I had something in my throat. So then I was messaging Brad at work, and he saw it, and he goes like, "Oh, that's cool. It looks like Optimus Prime, like the new Optimus Prime." And he's, "Oh, you should do that and call it Optimus Climb." I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea." So that's where that kind of branched off, and it came, had its own theme, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be cool." And then the build just snowballed from there, and came out to be what it is. So that is definitely one of the ones I thought was fun to build, and I think it looks cool driving it, and it just looks cool sitting on the shelf. It's
well, especially fun. Like Bumblebee on the back and stuff like that. That thing's pretty next level.
Yeah. I definitely wanted to put something on the bed because I wanted to make a flat bed and not like a trailer or anything. And I was like, well, what am I going to put that there? I think, Bumblebee would be cool to put back there. So I went and looked for it's actually an 18th scale Fisher-Price toy car.
Really?
That I got off of Amazon. But yeah, it's a Fisher-Price Volkswagen Bug.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it looks really realistic. I thought it was a FMS or one of those brands. When I had first seen it, I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's actually smaller than the FMS Volkswagen Beetle. But yeah, I took it all apart, the whole thing. I took it apart and sanded it and painted it and weathered it and put LEDs in it.
So rad.
Really cool. And then the one for me to drive, I would have to say, is my Jeep. That one's just the weight of it, the way it looks on the trail. It just drives really realistic. It looks cool.
Was that the Topo pattern one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that one is awesome.
It's a JK8 style body where it's like it's been converted into a truck, like they cut off the back, and that's an Endura body is what it is. So that one was a fun build to do as well, and it looks cool. It drives realistic, and it actually performs really well for the size and the weight that it is. It drives really good on the trail. That's fun.
Yeah, that thing looks fantastic.
Yeah, and then if I want to go fast, than my Ecto Runner, the hybrid B6 and Enduro. That's fun. That's fun to drive.
That one, there is a lot that went into that people probably didn't quite catch just on the surface. So I don't know if you want to talk about like the rear axle and stuff, because I mean that was pretty ingenious.
Yeah, when people see it, they always ask, what IFS kit is that that's on the front? They assume that it's just an Enduro chassis with an IFS on the front, but it's not. It's actually from underneath the whole cab is a 2-wheel drive off-road buggy, like a B6 is what it is. So it has aluminum chassis, it has the kick-up, it has all the arms and the suspension and everything of a 2-wheel drive race buggy in the front. And then it has a B74 centered differential, but it's a spool because it's only 2-wheel drive. And then I have Enduro, the back half of the Enduro rails mounted to the aluminum chassis with some brackets that I made. And then it has the trailing arm suspension from a Gatekeeper and the rear cage of a Gatekeeper. And then the rear axle is a hybrid of it's an Enduro axle tubes, MT12 center pumpkin, and B74 ring and pinion and gear diff in it.
That's so rad.
That was
because you originally had it where it was just a regular Enduro axle, right? And it was locked, and then you decided you wanted to go open diff with it after driving it, I think, is that?
Yeah, trying to drive it with a locked rear end, it was impossible. I could not get it to go straight. Even having a gyro in there, it would not go straight. It was impossible to drive. So putting an open diff on it really made it drivable. And it still has a gyro receiver in it. It has our DVC receiver in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it really easy to drive as well in loose dirt. But actually, it probably wouldn't even need that. But it definitely does help.
That axle it was so intriguing to me. I mean, just the amount of work that went into grafting the Enduro tubes onto the the MT12 pumpkin and stuff. I mean, there was a lot that went into that. There was a lot of hard work that it was easy to appreciate when looking at that build.
And I wasn't even sure if it was going to work. I was doing all this work to it and grafting everything together, and it's like, I don't even know if this is going to hold up. I don't know if it's going to even work. How are these parts going to fit? Am I going to strip gears? All these things were going through my mind. It's like, well, there's only one way to find out, and just to do it. I did it. I drove it. And at first, I was driving it kind of easy. Like, I don't want to break this thing apart, and want to at least get some fun of it, get some footage out of it. And then I realized, oh no, it'll be fine. So I drove it a little bit harder, and then it was fine. I took it to a local track out here where we were shooting some video for a release. And I decided, I'm going to take it out into the track. So I took it out into the track. They had like a little rhythm section on there. Drove it through that. Handled great. Drove great. I let somebody else drive it. And they're like, oh, this thing drives actually really good. It drives way better than I thought it would. You look at it, it looks top heavy, but it drives really easy. It's easy to drive. It's easy to control. You can drift it around on the dirt. It's fine. It's actually a really fun car to drive.
I think when we post this episode, we definitely need to do some. I'll make sure to go through your Instagram and stuff and get some pictures and whatnot of some of the cars that we're talking about, because
yes,
if there's somebody listening that's not familiar with what you've done, they're definitely missing out, because the builds that you're talking about are pretty spectacular. So I mean, that's for sure something that we want people to be able to see, because especially with like the Ecto Runner, is that what you called that one?
Yeah, it's an Ecto Runner.
That thing's incredible.
And we were talking earlier about projects that are on deck to be built. I have a new version of that's going to be a Zool Runner, but that one I am using B74 front end, so it will have 4-wheel drive.
Oh wow!
So that's gonna be fun. I have all the stuff here for that and ready to go. That's the one that I'm excited to build on. But I got these other builds I got to finish first.
I was talking to Brad the other day about doing a DK10 style build with a B74 as the base. I was like, man, that thing would be just absolutely beastly.
Yeah, that would be. I was actually thinking about the same thing. I was thinking, like, why don't we do something like that? Like, why wouldn't we do a 4-wheel drive version of, like, a DK10 or something, and an LT10? Which
the 2-wheel does really, really well. That was my first experience driving a car with a gyro in it, like for any, like real length of time. And man, like it handles really, really good, even with, running scale size tires and all the sidewall flex and everything. I mean, I kind of figured that it would not work all that great, but God, it rips. It was so much fun. So the gyro, that was actually kind of something that was cool to play around with, because that was just a totally new experience to me. But I was like, dude, this thing gets it on. I can't even imagine what a 4-wheel buggy based one would be like. That would be just
beastly. That's what I'm excited about too, to find out, like, when I build the 4-wheel drive version of that and seeing how that's going to perform.
Yeah, that would be rad. I'm excited to see that one. That and the Zool body just looks fantastic. That thing is so freaking cool.
Yeah. I have a paint job already in mind for that one. Since this one, the Ecto Runner, has the original RC10 themed body, the caramel yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So the Zool will have a retro paint scheme on it as well.
Cool.
I have something in mind for that, but I'll wait for it. I'll leave that for when I'm done and post it.
Speaking of retro, I saw, this is just really quick and we can get back to the questions, but I saw one of the clear RC10s and maybe it was Jason at J Concepts. I'm trying to think who it was now, whose account I saw it on, but they had done the build and they actually had painted the body, but used translucent paint to kind of keep with the clear theme. And it looked just spectacular. It was so cool looking.
Yeah. We did that as well. The box art on there, it kind of looks like it's a 3D rendering, but it's not. It's an actual photo.
Wow.
But we used a matte clear paint on the outside. We masked the windows on the outside so to keep those crystal clear. So the rest of it is like a matte clear. And then we found out that when we put the stickers on, wherever you put the stickers on, it made it clear again. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it looks really neat.
Yeah.
Where are you pulling questions from, Trav? Are you just doing Instagram or?
I started on Facebook, moving to Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure where. So I was going to try and get a jump on those two and look at them.
Yeah, gotcha. No, if you're ready for that, I can jump into the rest of them.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay. So continuing on with Brad Gex questions. This will probably be another hard one to answer because I feel like you've gotten to do a couple of these so far. But he asked, "What would your dream build be?"
Oh man, I knew that question was coming because I read that and I knew. I tried thinking about this too. That's a really hard one. I don't know what a dream build would be. I guess a dream build would be to actually, if I had the skill set, would be to actually build a full size car. With, I have my Subaru that I'm working on, but that's not like a build,
right? But, interesting.
I don't know. That's a really, really hard question. Maybe something large scale.
Like, that makes sense. I can see where you're coming from there. I think
I always had a dream of building like a quarter scale monster truck with a tube frame and
that would be cool.
That's I don't know how to weld, so that would require welding.
You don't need to weld. You can also braze it.
Yeah, I could. I guess I could do that. Yeah, I guess I'm out of excuses. But yeah, I guess cost would just be a limiting factor too, and I can't imagine that would be cheap. But something large scale, I think would be would be a dream project.
Yeah, I'd say nothing large scale is cheap.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, and then one of the things that people forget about too is like, you know, if you do like a quarter scale monster truck build or something, there's also like the issue of like transporting it wherever you're going to go drive it. Cause
storage.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I think the largest thing I have, well, I guess I did do a large scale thing, because the largest thing I have, I don't know if you've seen it, if anybody of you guys have seen it, but is a Bonesy, my tricycle.
Oh yeah. That thing is so creepy.
I actually store him at the office because I don't have space here at my house to store it. So I keep him over by my desk area at work.
Well, that was the one Instagram question we got, wasn't it? Was Rock Pirates asking if he brought Bonesy, but you had addressed that. Yeah. You got to keep it at the office.
Yeah, he's at the office. October 1st, he comes home. He gets revamped. He gets any modifications or any repairs or you know, he gets going through to make sure everything's going to work. So by Halloween, he's ready to go. And then the next day after Halloween, he goes back to the office and he's there until the next year. So, but he's always a big hit around the neighborhood whenever I bring him by. All the neighbors love him. He brings his little bell to go get candy. They're always happy to see him.
Scream and cry.
Kids screaming and crying. I've chased a few teenagers.
Yes.
And he's actually pretty fast too. Like, he gets a little bit of speed wobble going down the street. I think I posted a video of him going full speed down the street. He's sitting there just wobbling like crazy in the front wheel. But yeah, he's fun. He's fun. He's fun
to drive. That's the overall terror of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you see this. One of the neighbors thought that it was an actual kid riding a tricycle. They didn't realize that it was radio controlled. And then when they realized, they go, "Oh my god, I didn't realize it's radio controlled. That's so cool." So, and then my neighbor right next door to me, he wanted one too, and so we decided we were going to build him a pedal car. He got a pedal car, and I made that radio controlled for him.
Oh wow!
And I did that for him last year. So he has a pedal car that's radio controlled, but doesn't have a driver yet. So I think this year he's going to work on putting a driver in there.
That has got to be a huge undertaking as far as like the drivetrain and stuff for one of those.
Yeah, it is. The pedal car was a bit of a challenge. It's chain drive, but
wow,
it works okay. I think it could be better, but we were running short on time, so it's kind of one of those builds that, you know, we only got a couple of weeks to do it, and you know, not a whole lot of time, and we were driving it. The first test drive that we drove it, the chain broke. Like the two sprockets weren't lined up properly, so it put a lot of strain on it. The chain broke. So I had to put a new chain on there, and then finally we got it to work. And I go, okay, don't slam on the brakes because otherwise you're gonna break a chain. And so we got it to work, and he was able to drive it around on Halloween night with no driver. But that's fine. It was great. It worked out great.
I'd put the Jigsaw mask on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know what he wants to do for a driver. We'll see.
That is some serious work. Wow. Yeah, I'm just sitting here running through my mind everything that'd be involved in something like that. That's just wild. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
So the final question from Brad was, where did you get the big hat?
That's actually, I don't know if it's technically his hat, but it was at the office.
Oh.
He was setting up for taking some photos, and that hat was in the photo studio. I grabbed it, and because he wanted to take some pictures, you know, some test pictures. So I was sitting there, and I grabbed that hat, and I held it up like that, and he took the picture. And then he has, you can ask him to share them with you, but he has photos, or one of them, he took out the hat, and he photoshopped in a donut. Then he has another one he photoshopped in like a chocolate chip cookie. It looks like I'm sitting there holding a giant chocolate chip cookie and a giant donut. Yeah, there's a lot of fun with that. But that was actually at the office. Yeah, that hat was left there by a previous employee, I think. And it was just sitting there. And I just grabbed it and held it up. He took a picture.
Nice.
Where do you get a hat like that? You get it from Brad.
I love that. Okay, so the next, well, I guess the rest of the questions, unless you guys saw more, but the rest of the questions are from Chris Trudeau. I think he asked like 3 or 4. So the first one was, for your builds, how much planning goes into a build, which I imagine varies a bit.
It varies. It depends on where I got my inspiration from. If I'm building a replica of something, I mean, I'll try to get as many reference photos as I can. From as many different angles as I can. The higher resolution the photo, the better. If it's something that's just like, oh, I just want to build a truck, or I want to build this, I want to build that, then it'll be, maybe I'll look at something that's similar. If it's going to be something that's going to be weathered, then I'll look at photos of the same type of vehicle that's been weathered or rusty, so I can see where the rust is going to be. Other than that, it might be just like, okay, well, I know what type of wheels I'm going to put on it, or what type of tire, or, what type of suspension. So I'll just start researching and just kind of browsing the internet and just start and looking to see what kind of interests me, what looks like it might be cool. So yeah, but yeah, it varies. It varies what the project is.
This might be a silly question, but it's just from me. But like, when you are in this stage of the planning, do you have any methodology for how you organize this, or are you just capturing various details in your head, pretty much just before you get to the bench work?
Sometimes I'll download photos, but for the most part, it's just whatever I have in my head.
Okay.
And I'll have an idea of what I want to look like, and then I'll just kind of figure it out from there. Like the Ecto Runner, that whole concept was in my head, like trying to figure out what parts would go where. Anytime that I'm not working or doing anything, like sometimes I'll be sitting there on the couch watching TV, and I'm thinking, oh, how will I mount the rails to the chassis? And then I'll start, visualizing in my head how that would mount. And then I'll look at the parts and I'll see, okay, is there enough room for that? Or I can mount it here, I can mount it there. A lot of it is in my head.
Okay.
Like I said, visually assemble it in my head. I never really thought about this. It's kind of an interesting question, but now that I'm thinking about it.
Because we know some people that are just really methodical about stuff, and they'll have like, okay, this is my parts list and everything that I need to order, and like they're just super, super structured and everything. And I don't really operate that way. And it sounds like you're kind of more like us, where you just sort of do it on the fly. And so,
yeah, I've had people message me on Instagram asking me, oh, do you have a build list of all the parts that you do? Nope.
Yeah, I've had that same question, and I'm just like, really? Like, who has time to do that?
Yeah.
I'm not cataloging the parts that I have and recording how much I don't want to know how much I spend on builds. So I try not to track that information. But yeah, a lot of it's just in my head. I just know what parts I need, and I'll test fit parts. Like when I worked at the hobby shop years ago, when I first started getting into RC, when it was slow, I would just look at all the parts on the shelf and go, oh, that would fit there. That would fit there. These two parts look like they would go together. Cool, and do that sort of stuff. And so that's kind of still what I do. I imagine I see a part and I go, okay, I need something that's going to fit here or do that. And I try to find something that'll do that.
Now, I think that's a really enjoyable part of the process too. It's like the improvising, and just like, that's something that I actually really enjoy.
Yeah. And then now with 3D printing, I mean, that makes it that much easier, because if you can't find the part,
right,
then you just make it. Right. You just design it and make it.
It's very true.
So I just recently started kind of playing around with 3D printing stuff. Like I had to make a link riser for the MT12 pumpkin on the Ecto Runner because where the links were mounting, it was too low, and it was interfering with something. I don't remember what it was. So I had to raise the link mount higher, and so I had to build that. I had to design that, and I used Tinkercad to design that part, and then 3D printed it, test fitted it, and it worked. So I don't have a 3D printer though, so it makes it a little bit harder because I have to send something out. I have to send the file out and have it wait for it to get back, and I get it back, and then it's like if I tested it, it doesn't work. Okay, gotta do it and send it all over again. So.
Right.
You ought to just spring for a cheap ender or something. I mean, that's all I've used, and I mean, I've done like bodies with them and stuff. Even they work really well. But I mean, it's like having that at your disposal to where you can just have something overnight is just game changing. It's so nice.
Yeah, I have a few friends that have printers as well, and they've always told me, hey, if you ever want me to print something for you, just send me the file and I can print it for you. So I've done that too. So when you have a friend that has a printer that does a lot of printing,
that's the best resource.
Yeah, definitely. Bypass the investment and the frustration.
Yeah, just skip all the nonsense, get to the fun.
Yeah, I don't have space to keep a printer. I have a vinyl cutter, but that's off on a shelf underneath, somewhere that I just, when I need to use it, I take it out, set up a table, plug it into the computer. That's a whole setup thing, a whole setup process. So I don't have a place to keep a 3D printer. I do out in the garage, but I don't want to keep a 3D printer out in the garage because I don't want to get all dusty. And
yeah, it's not ideal. That's where both mine are.
Yeah. I guess you could get a cover for it. I've been told you just get a cover, but yeah. I don't print enough in order to justify me buying one. At least I don't think so.
Well, once you get one though, that'll probably change because you're just going to be like, I want sand ladders. I want to make this. I need an ice chest now. Like there's just so many things that it's just, it becomes a problem after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. But I like the old fashioned way too. Just, cutting metal, sanding, filing, doing it that way. Which I have machines out in the garage. I have a lathe, I have drill press, I have sanders, I have stuff like that. So
okay, so I can kind of understand then why there's sort of an inclination towards those things. Then,
yeah, I already have them. So my father-in-law, he used to work at Boeing. This is kind of another tangent, but he used to work at Boeing, and then when I would want something to be machined, I was actually drafting in high school, so I was able to draw stuff up on paper, and then I would just give him the drawing. He would take it to Boeing, take it to the machine shop, put a little order number on it, do all the paperwork. Go, hey, we need this part made, and then the machinist doesn't know what it is. He goes, okay, we'll have it to you in a couple of days. He comes back. He comes to me a couple of days later. Hey, here's your part. And then I go, oh, okay, cool.
That's awesome.
So I have some parts on a previous one that's outside the office. But it's a TC4 that has been converted to a 2-wheel drive gas stadium truck.
Oh wow!
Oh.
So that one, I have a picture on it somewhere on my Instagram as well. But that one, it has a custom motor mount that has like a 30-degree angle to kick the motor forward a little bit, and that was designed, and I designed that on paper, and then that was machined at Boeing.
Wow,
that's pretty cool.
That's kind of a lost art doing it that way.
Yeah, and so he knew how to use machines as well, and so he bought a lathe. He actually had a mill at his house at one point, and then because he worked at Boeing, he was able to talk to the machinist over there, and he got some tooling and stuff. So we have all the bits and everything, like the end mills and stuff like that, and we would just be able to machine stuff at home. And then he passed away, and I still have all his stuff. So I don't have the mill anymore because he moved out of his house and didn't have a place to store it, so he ended up having to sell it. It was a full size, like huge
Yeah, no joke. Yeah.
Like a big Bridgeport or something, or
yeah, it was a big full-size mill that was
gnarly.
Had to be moved by movers, and there was no way that we were going to move in. So,
but even having a lathe, I mean, that opens up so many possibilities. I mean, that's something Travis and I've talked about forever, is getting even like just a tabletop lathe for like hobby type stuff would be fun.
Yeah, that's what the one that I have is a tabletop lathe.
Rad.
So I do small stuff on there. I have friends that work in the RC industry that work in machine shops too. So occasionally I'll go, hey, can you make me this part? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. If it's simple, we'll do it. So I guess that's the advantage of having worked in the industry for so long.
That's rad. His next question, which this came up very recently. My business partner told me the other day that basically almost every Google search he does is Google Images, which I found very fascinating. And so the question Chris asked here was, do you image search quite a bit, which I'm assuming ahead of your builds, which you kind of touched on.
Yeah, I definitely do. Image searching on Google or on Instagram, I'll go through some of the full-sized off-road accounts and look at stuff there, and I'll say, like, oh, that looks cool. So I definitely get a lot of inspiration from stuff like that. Maybe not necessarily copying or replicating stuff, but just going, oh, that's cool how that chassis looks, or that's cool how that bumper looks.
Bits and pieces.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Google image search is definitely a builder's friend.
I like that. Okay. And then this is a question I really like. How much deviation does there tend to be from original concept to final product when you're doing these builds?
That varies as well. Like we talked about with the Optimus Climb, and that was a deviation that had a lot of that, like I said, that was a 2-year project, and it kind of was going, didn't have a direction to go in. So I was going like a one direction. I don't want to go in that direction. I'm going this direction, and I don't want to go in that direction. And then until I finally found the path that I wanted to go down. But other than that, not a whole lot. Usually I have a goal in mind. I have an idea and go with it, and that's what I end up with. Optimus Climb would be the exception, that it just didn't really have a direction at the beginning. It wasn't until later on. But sometimes that happens. You have a build in mind, and you just straight line to the finish line. It's just there. But other times you kind of have an idea of what you want to do, but no real end goal in mind. And then until you find that path that you want to go down, and then you go, okay, this is the right path. This is the way to go.
Yeah. But so I guess expanding on that for a second, was there a build in particular where that, like, it was particularly disruptive in terms of what your initial approach to it was, and then how it turned out, where it's like you had maybe a moment or two of, oh, wow, this really isn't going to come together like I thought I would, or like I thought it would, excuse me, and need to make a pretty severe scope adjustment?
Right off the bat, I can't think of anything that's been like that for me. You mean like we're like, oh, this isn't going to work, and I have to either abandon it or just completely go in a different direction?
Yeah, or just something where it's like it was a big shift from what your original idea was, and maybe a problem presented a different inspiration for the way this build could go.
No, I can't think of anything that I've had that experience with. Usually, if I have something in mind, it usually works out, or I figure it out. I've had it where like the two vans, where one project inspired another one.
Okay,
I've had that happen. because I was doing the dad's van, and I needed to get rid of the sunroof that was on the Tamiya body. So I bought a second body to cut out part of the roof to make a patch with. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this other body? And then I go, oh, well, I have this bed from another Tamiya vehicle. Oh, let me just make this into a truck. So I made the second one into a truck. And then it fit perfectly onto one of our Reflex 14Rs. And so that's where it now sits. It's perfectly on there. So it's like it kind of, one project inspired another one.
Okay.
So I've had that happen.
Okay. Well, in general, then I guess that's great to hear because it largely worked out then. But no, that's really cool. Yeah. And then the final question that Chris asked was, what's the longest running project that you'd worked on?
Optimus Climb, the 2 years from start to finish.
Really?
Yeah. I knew I wanted to build a 6x6. I knew how I could build a 6x6 with the Element Enduro chassis. And I knew how I could make a pass-through axle. So I did all that. And then just have what type of body to put on it, that I didn't have a direction of where I wanted to go from there. So it kind of sat for about a year, just the chassis by itself. And then trying to figure out what kind of body I wanted to put on it was where I finally figured out what I wanted. And then once I figured out the body and what the theme was, ran with it and finished it.
Which
so, Optimus Climb.
On that note, I really loved the body approach on this. I mean, I think I'm watching a video of it now on your page, and this thing is so cool. Just like kind of the mix of the different eras of it and everything. This is one of the coolest, if not the coolest build I've seen, I think, in terms of, definitely like just total unorthodox, like different approach to it. This thing is just sick.
Yeah. When Brad had mentioned that, it's the Optimus Prime truck, I didn't want to build the new Optimus Prime. I don't like that version of Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Having grown up in the 80s and I actually have an Optimus Prime toy in my cabinet here. So that to me is Optimus Prime. The red with the silver stripe, and then the trailer being, like a gunmetal color. So that's where that inspiration came from. I liked that it was a new version of the truck, but it had the old style paint job. And so having the sleeper cab on there lended itself to be able to make that part look like the trailer.
That's one of my favorite features of that when you were building that was definitely one of the things I was like, oh, that's rad.
It's
that's
such a super good, fantastic idea. Callback. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I like it's a new style of truck, but it has that old retro paint scheme.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool.
I try and repost or share that thing anytime you do, because I see it. It's just like, oh, that is so cool. It's one of those rigs where it's one of my all-time favorites, and I haven't been able to get enough of that thing. I just love it.
Yeah, he needs some work. The light system that's in it is one of our old light systems that we used to sell, and it doesn't really work that great. Half the lights now don't work, So I got a bunch of lights from My Trick RC, and they helped me out in figuring out what I needed and got me a light controller and everything. So that's all going to go, and that'll be a future project that I'll work on, getting all the lights figured out. And then he took a rollover at an event, so one of the exhaust stacks broke. We got to fix that. But yeah, he's just, and then the wiring just needs to be cleaned up, because when I did the initial wiring and I wanted to take him out to, I think it was Proline by the Fire where I took him out to. I wanted to just get him done. So all the wiring is kind of just zip tied underneath it. It's just all kind of messy. So I need to go through and organize it and clean it up.
It's a Travis wiring job.
That's one of my pet peeves too, is that I can't have just the wiring just spaghetti underneath there. I can't have it just all bundled up, and it bugs me. It needs to be nice and tight. It needs to be clean. Either I try to hide it as much as I can. So all my builds, I try to do that with, make them as clean and the wiring neat.
Well, and working in the industry too, and being somewhat public like you are and like we are, it's like you have to get good at that stuff, because that's like you'll draw so much criticism from people otherwise, you know, like, yeah. I mean, I've had people talk shit about like my soldering jobs and stuff before. And it's just, I think anytime you're kind of in the public eye like that, you're just forced to have to like step your game up and get good at that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I've always been like, okay, when I was going racing, I was like, okay, I may not win, but at least I'll look good racing. You know, I'll paint my body. It'll be this awesome paint job on the body. You know, I'll spend hours on the paint. At least the paint looks good. At least my wiring job looks good. I may not win, but hey, it looks good.
Relatable.
For sure.
Been there.
Awesome.
Well, it's kind of one of those like look good, feel good, drive good type things too. You know, totally. Like there's something to be said for that kind of attention to detail too.
It's a lot of mental stuff too. You know, a lot of racers, you know, that if their body has to look nice, it has to be clean, it has to have a nice paint job on it, and then they'll be fast. You know, it's a mental thing. You know, if your car looks good and you feel good about your car, then you're going to drive it. You know, if your wiring's all messed up, your car, you know, is all dirty and it has a horrible paint job on it or whatever, you're not going to feel good. It's just going to get at you. It's just going to slow you down.
It's incredibly true.
I get that.
It took me like 6 years to learn that lesson. Well, cool. That wraps up all the questions we had from listeners. So thank you for putting those in.
Do you guys have any more? Because I know I've got one left of my own that I wanted to ask.
No, it was already answered. I had one. The reason why it was a 2-year build, but he already answered that.
Yeah.
Well, mine was I had seen recently that you had gone and done an RC rally event, and I was kind of curious. Like, we don't have a scene for that here. Like, nobody's into it where I live, and so it's one of those things that I've always thought would be super, super fun, and I try and watch videos of it every chance I get when I come across them. But I don't know that many people besides like you and like Tony that have actually done it that I can like ask like, how was it, you know? So how did that go? Like how did you enjoy that?
Well, I actually haven't competed or gone to a rally event.
Oh, okay.
We went to Rally Runners Track because we needed to shoot some video for the Apex T chassis with the rally conversion.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Nick from Wally Builds, we went down there to shoot some video, and so we had several cars up there. We were running on the track, and it was fun. It would be something that I would be interested in it, but what doesn't appeal to me is having to run behind the car.
Oh, really?
I'm out of shape. I probably would just halfway through be like, okay, I'm done.
No, I get that though. Like,
that seems to be everybody's kind of deterrent, I've noticed.
Yeah, even Nick, he's I think he's what, 30 years old. He's a lot younger than me, and he's even like, I don't know if I would want to run behind the car with that. That's just not that part is not appealing. I've never been really a huge fan of running. The most running I did was like when I played baseball, but you know, that was just short bursts.
Sure.
So that part doesn't really appeal to me. Driving it on the track and that would be interesting, but I don't have a lot of desire to actually race. But I guess it's not really racing because you're not racing against anybody. You're racing against the clock.
Right.
But I would give it a shot. I'm not opposed to it. That wasn't in an actual event that we went to. We just went to where they have their events.
Gotcha. Okay.
I didn't realize that. To shoot video. Yeah.
Adam and I have both done Scale Ultra. That's something that we've tried before and at Axial Fest, and I really enjoyed it. I am super out of shape and have like a bad ankle and can't really run, but like it was still like super fun. So I mean, ever since then, the whole rally thing's like definitely appealed to me. So I just wish we had something like that here.
You just gotta come down here.
Yeah, dude, I would love to. Especially when you guys had your event down there, Dead Man's Crawl. That was something that Travis and I wanted to do really bad. I mean, at some point, I really would like to make it down there and do some stuff like hit a rally, hit up Crawlers and Coffee, just go down and just experience some stuff that we haven't really gotten to do before.
Yeah, just make a trip down here. We'll take you to some cool spots out here to get some trail time.
That would be awesome. We would love that.
Maybe so that there's a rally runners event, and you go down there and bring your rally car.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So let me know when you're gonna come down.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, that'd be a kick. Well, that's all I had. So I know it's getting kind of late for you, Trav, where you are. So you're an hour ahead of us, behind us, whatever it is.
Well, yeah, I'm good, but we're getting to a good point episode time here. So I think we're about ready to wrap, unless anybody has anything else they wanted to touch on. Yeah, I guess closing thoughts, Dave, if there's anything else that you wanted to bring up, touch on, shamelessly plug, we're all for it. So
well, I guess shamelessly plug, but I have been putting it off. But I had started I had created a YouTube channel and kind of kept putting it off.
Oh, good.
And just focusing on Instagram. But now I've decided, I need to do more content on YouTube, something that's like a little bit more in depth, like on some of these builds. I have, let's see how many years, 30 years of RC painting experience I could share.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Painting. I want to do like a bunch of painting how-tos and tips and stuff like that. I have one video on my YouTube channel that got quite a few watches on weathering a paint job, and people liked it. So,
I'm sure. Yeah.
So I would like to do more of that, doing some build breakdowns, showing what I've done in a build. Doing even just like a build series, like a multi-part series of following along as I create a build or something like that, and doing various stuff just to kind of get people inspired to build. So
yeah, we'll have to get that. I'll text you or whatever later on when we get ready to post this episode, and I'll make sure to get that link so that we can put that in the episode, when we post it, along with some pictures and stuff like that too of what you've done.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no problem. Just let me know whatever photos that you need. I have them all on my phone, or most of them on my phone. I can do some photos that we don't have to necessarily pull them from Instagram.
Cool. Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And again, you can follow him at My Build Projects on Instagram, which I'm sure actually a pretty good base of our listeners probably already follow you. But if anybody doesn't, do so as quickly as possible, because it will probably have a pretty heavy inspiration on what your next build is. So
my YouTube channel is also My Build Projects, so that's
perfect. That's easy enough.
So
perfect.
You can search for me there.
Easy then. Okay.
That's another reason why I haven't done this 4-wheel drive version, because that's one that I want to start from the beginning and do a build series on it for YouTube, so people can follow along the build. Each episode will be a different part of the build process.
Rad.
Definitely excited to see this, because I'm very interested, especially like just kind of like starting out on that, like performance wise, how you end up finding that and like the engagement and everything. So definitely would like to talk through that once you finished up with it, after we've gotten to watch everything. That's really exciting.
No problem. Thank you. It'll be exciting. It'll be fun. I just gotta get all set up and get some lighting.
God, the lighting.
Stuff like that.
It's always the lighting. Yeah.
Dude, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like anytime we try and do something, like lighting is always the biggest thing that we fight. It is such a pain in the ass.
I've been watching tons of YouTube videos on how to set up your lighting for YouTube, how to set up your lighting for product photos, or how to set up your lighting for this or for that, anything that would pertain to what I want to do. I've been watching them and looking at equipment and stuff like that. So it's a process.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Well, I shoot a lot of videos here too for Element, like all the Trail Tip Tuesdays I shot here in my home office.
No kidding. Wow.
Have an idea of how to do it, how to get that stuff done, like on the bench type of lighting.
Well, those look great. I mean, those look really good.
Yeah. So it's more of the off the bench type of stuff, the talking head part, that type of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I don't like being in front of the camera, but it'd probably be a good idea so people can see who I am and not just hands.
Yeah, I think I think that's necessary. I mean, that's one of the things that I've never felt comfortable with, and so that's why we've never really dove into YouTube and never really show our faces and kind of stay somewhat anonymous with everything that we do. But I think it helps a lot for engagement, so that's probably something pretty important.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to see that human face behind something, and you have a little bit more of a connection when you can see their face or their personality rather than just these hands. Yeah, exactly. In front of the camera, I'm looking at my hands now. I need to get my nails trimmed and stuff.
That's so funny because that's something that I try and stay on top of. Like when I was doing I was planning on doing a whole video around installing the little spare tire kit on the Bushido and stuff. And that was one of the things that I was like, oh dude, I need to run out and cut my fingernails really quick and stuff. So it's just funny that that's something that you need to think about. And it's part of the process when you're doing this sort of thing.
Yeah. When I was doing the Trail Tip Tuesdays, but I would start to shoot and I was like, oh man, I need to trim my nails. So I'd open up my drawer, I'd pull out my Lexan scissors and start my fingernails with scissors.
Ouch.
Yeah. Or with the wire cutters just in there. Side cutters.
Well, Dave, thank you very much for coming on, and I appreciate your time. This was a great episode. We've been long overdue, not just having a guest, but having an episode just to begin with. It's actually been a fairly busy year for all three of us, and so it's been tough to try and coordinate and get stuff done. But I really appreciate you coming on here and putting up with us being late, which is typical, and things like that. So.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It was really fun. I enjoyed talking to you guys and talking about the stuff that I've built. And then, we were talking, previous to the show about painting and stuff. So that's fun.
We'll definitely have to do it again sometime. And if there's something that you ever want to, talk about or promote or plug or show off or whatever, hit us up. I mean, you definitely don't need to wait for any kind of an invitation. I mean, we're always open to that sort of thing. So
okay, no problem. I'll definitely
reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, likewise with you guys, if you have any questions or you need a guest to come on or talk about something, just let me know. I'm always open to doing that. So
rad. I appreciate it, man. We'll do.
Or if you want to talk element stuff, that's fine too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely.
Killer. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that concludes episode 122. Thank you guys for everybody here joining us, and then listeners and everything as well, especially in our tumultuous schedule releases. Very appreciative for the very faithful listenership all these years, and the continuing to do so. It means a lot to us. And And we hope that we can continue to bring you guys great episodes like this one. So thanks for listening. Thank you, Dave, for joining us. And
thank you.
We will see you guys later.
All right. See you later.
All right. See you.